So we were discussing about the deep feed grinding machine and high efficiency deep grinding machine. So in case of the high efficiency deep grinding machine, the concept of single pass deep grinding at a table speed much higher than what is possible in creep feed grinder. Okay. Now, in creep feed grinder, we have discussed that what happens this machine if you think about the grinding machine single pass of the surface with larger down feed, the slower, like the speed of the table is very slow and the down feed is higher. That means for multi pass conventional surface grinding, suppose you have to remove a huge amount of material from the surface, so you have to repeat the conventional surface grinding process repeatedly. So uh, instead of that, what you can do is you can use a larger down feed and a slower table speed, right? So this machine has need to have a higher stiffness, high spindle power, definitely, because it will try to remove more material. Okay, these things are in place. And in case of high efficiency deep grinding machine, like it is uh, similar to that of creep grinding. However, the only thing is that we can increase the swill speed, right? If in case we want to increase the efficiency, the speed of the wheel has to be increased, right? So it is similar to the creep feed grinding machine. However, the speed, if it's increased, we can call it a high efficiency deep grinding machine. Next is a cylindrical grinding machine. So in cylindrical grinding machine, we can categorize into three parts, three types. One is plain center type cylindrical grinder, universal cylindrical surface grinder, centerless cylindrical surface grinder. Now, plain center type cylindrical grinder, it looks somewhat like this. Now, as the term suggests, cylindrical grinder, that means suppose there is a cylinder or a cylindrical bar and you want to remove material from the surface. If you look into this diagram, you try to understand the process. Here, what exactly happening is there is a spindle on which the cylinder is mounted, and the cylinder uh, can be rotated. It can be rotated with a certain speed. And again, there is a parallel spindle provided for the grinder. So the material is removed from the periphery of the cylinder, right? So in this type, like plain center type cylindrical grinding, both the uh, grinding axis and the cylinder axis are parallel to each other, right? And material is removed from the periphery of the cylindrical bar. Okay. So in this case, both traverse grinding and plunge grinding is possible. As you can see here, again, traverse grinding and plunge grinding things are shown for cylindrical grinding process. So it's a kind of tailstock and headstock of lathe. Okay, it looks similar to the lathe machine where the material is loaded, and with the grinding wheel whose axis is parallel to that of the axis of this cylinder, and the rotation of this grinding wheel takes place. So if it is traverse grinding, in that case, there will be reciprocating motion of this workpiece. And in case of plunge grinding, there will be no motion of the workpiece, however, just rotation. And definitely there will be a slot that will be generated on the periphery of the workpiece. Okay, so if you see, there will be a slot through the entire periphery of the workpiece like this. Okay, like this. Now, universal cylindrical surface grinder. Universal cylindrical surface grinder is a type of or similar to that of a plain cylindrical uh, um, grinding machine. However, it's more versatile in nature. Like it has some extra features, like we have swiveling of the headstock, where some angular, if we want to remove material from some angles, it is possible. So as in this case, as you see that there is a material where there's a taper kind of thing on which we are performing the grinding operation. Okay, so here is one grinder, here is another grinder. So if you if you look into this part, this is one grinding wheel, this is another grinding wheel. So two grinding wheels can be mounted together, and whenever required, whatever kind of grinding process is required, we can employ that. Okay, so any kind of taper workpiece, if we can use this universal grinder to remove material from the surface. Now this portion is for removing material from the outer periphery, and this is from inside part of a cylinder. Like if in case we have a hollow cylinder, we can remove the internal or you can remove material from the internal hole or from the hollow structure using this grinder. Okay, so it is mounted in the same machine. Next is,
sir, can you please explain it once again? I couldn't understand.
Definitely. See, for this grinder,
sir, excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, how the power is transferred to the means grinders?
There will be
in this machine.
There will be a motor, okay, and
Okay.
with the gear system, both the grinders will rotate, right?
Okay. Okay. Okay.
There will be a central motor, and both the gears will, both the things will rotate at the same speed, right?
Okay.
And
okay.
if you want to perform the external grinding on the external periphery, you employ this one. If you want to perform grinding in the internal hollow structure, you use this one, right?
Right, sir.
Okay. Next is special application of cylindrical grinder. So principle of cylindrical grinding is being used for thread grinding, which is specially formed wheel, like the grinding wheel is in the form or in the shape of a thread. Like this is the structure, as if you can see here, this is the structure, or this is the structure in which the grinding wheel is made. So this structure gets into the thread, okay, the depth of the thread, and the grinding can be performed, right? So it can be a single ribbed, this is a single ribbed, this is a single ribbed, this is a multi-ribbed, right? So single ribbed wheel or multi-ribbed wheel can be employed for performing this kind of operation. Okay, so roll grinding is a specific case of cylindrical grinding wherein large workpieces such as shafts, spindles, and rolls are ground. Okay. External centerless grinder. So as of now, we were talking about grinding machine with a fixed center. Okay. However, work is held between the centers. Okay. So here, let us look into this kind of machine, wherein the grinding machine is a machine in which the side diameter of the workpiece is ground. Side diameter means, if we are talking about the turning operation, wherein the basic idea of the turning operation is to remove material from the outer periphery, that is, reduce the diameter of the workpiece, and the work is held at the chuck of the lathe. However, if the workpiece is not held between the centers or by a support blade, now it is rotated by means of a regulating wheel and ground by the grinding wheel. So in through feed centerless grinding, the regulating wheel revolving as much lower speed than the grinding wheel. So the wheel in which the workpiece is there, it revolves with a very slower speed than the grinding wheel. Okay. Now the regulating wheel is kept slightly inclined to the axis of the grinding wheel and the workpiece is fed. So this is how it looks like. This is called centerless grinding process, wherein you can see that this is the rotation. This is the workpiece. The white portion is the workpiece. Okay. The A and A is your grinding wheel, right? And the C is your work table. Okay. So if you, this is one of the views. This is another view. You can see that the axis of the regulating wheel can be tilted, right? So this is the axis of the regulating wheel. Okay, this can be tilted accordingly. So this is the axis and this is the axis of the grinding wheel, right? So this one is the grinder. Now this is clear, I believe. Now again, if you look into this diagram, okay, so here again, suppose this is the workpiece and you have to machine this workpiece. Okay, so there is a regulating wheel and there is a grinder, right? So the regulating wheel, or it is, you can say it is a support, okay, for the workpiece to hold it. Okay, so now this workpiece is placed between these two and the material is removed. So there is also some kind
Sir, it can have wear na.
Yes, please.
From that regulated wheel, it can have wear and tear also.
Yes, it normally what happens from the regulating wheel is not rough, it is very smooth. Okay, so normally there is very less amount of friction in the regulating wheel.
Sir, is that sandpaper?
No, that is a grinding. That is the grinding wheel. In this is the grinding wheel. Okay, and
okay.
this is the regulating regulating wheel. Okay.
Okay, I understand.
This portion is rough because it's a continuation. That is why it is. Okay.
Okay, sir.
And also you can, since the grinding wheel is not very smooth, that also you can say this is made rough, so that there will be some amount of grits which will remove material from the workpiece. Okay, that is again another reason. Now see, this part of the regulating wheel is somewhat tapered in nature. Okay, this is because of the profile of the workpiece, right? So depending on the profile of the workpiece, you can also change the regulating wheel. Okay, now so next part is your tool post grinder, right? So tool post grinder, it's a self-powered grinding wheel, okay, which is mounted on the tool post or the compound rest to provide the grinding action in the lathe. Okay, the rotation of the workpiece is provided by the lathe spindle. Lathe carriage is used to reciprocate the tool wheel head. Now there is a process which is similar to that of grinding process, and material removal is less as compared to turning. So in that case, this process is performed in the lathe machine. So this process is called as hard turning. Okay, HARD. The hard turning is a process. Hard turning. Okay, so hard turning is a process which in which the workpiece is held in the lathe machine and material is removed in the form of, or using a tool. Okay, and it is similar to that of grinding. Why it is hard turning? Because very hard materials are very difficult to grind in the grinding wheel, using the grinding wheel. Because if you are trying to remove material from very hard material, what will happen? Your grinding wheel will wear out very fast. Okay, because the grits are not that much hard to penetrate into this hard material, right? So the grit or the bonding of the grinding wheel will suffer wear, and the grinding wheel will wear out very fast. So hard turning is a process which
So
is, sorry.
hard turning can be considered as a pre-grinding process.
It is a grinding process. It's a like it is similar to that of a grinding process, but this process is performed on the lathe machine. Okay, and this is performed for very hard materials. Okay, so
For
it is
example, HSS.
not a grinding process. Yes.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now next is the internal grinding machine. So if in case we want to produce any internal cylindrical surface, like for any kind of hollow shafts, if you want to have straight, tapered, grooved or profiled surface, we can use internal grinding machine. And they are further classified into the chucking type internal grinder, planetary internal grinder, and centerless internal grinder. We'll quickly look into this, how they look like. Okay, so this is the internal centerless grinder. So this is how it looks like. If you look into the front view of this sectional front view of this grinder, this is how it looks like. So this is the grinding wheel. If you this is the grinding wheel, right? This portion, and this is again, two things can be done: traverse grinding and plunge grinding. Both things are possible. So this type of grinder is used for traverse grinding. However, this can be used for plunge grinding, right? So you will see there are very small grinding wheels which are available, okay, which can be mounted with a drill machine, right? And grinding operation can be done. That can also be performed, means we don't need a machine for it. For some portions it is very difficult to mount the workpiece on the machine. Suppose you are making some profile in a automobile part. So in that case it is very difficult to take that part to the machine. So in that case we can also use some drilling machine kind of motorized machine, and we can remove material using this kind of instead of a drill bit, we'll put on this grinder there. It will rotate with the higher speed and it will remove some material from the internal surface, right? And definitely you can also use it to remove material from the external surface also. But this is basically what our internal grinder, or what is the application of internal grinder, we can see here, right? Next part is your planetary internal grinder. So planetary internal grinder looks somewhat like this. So the workpiece, suppose it is not regular in shape, it is irregular in shape, and it cannot be rotated conveniently. Okay, in that case, so the workpiece do not rotate. Instead, the grinding wheel orbits its axis. Okay, and we get the proper structure. Okay, so this is a rotation of the grinding wheel. Okay, and this is how it is rotating, right? So any kind of this is a irregular surface which is shown in the diagram, but in case this is not regular, okay, it is some let us say it is an elliptical surface, then also this kind of grinding operation will be possible, right? Next is centerless internal grinder. So this is how the centerless internal grinder works. Okay, so this is one grinding wheel A, okay, and here is another grinding wheel. So both internal and external surfaces of this hollow shaft is being ground, right? So we can also consider this as a supporting wheel, right? So here the machine is used for grinding cylindrical and tapered holes in cylindrical parts. For example, cylindrical liners, various bushings, etc. The workpiece is rotated between the supporting roll, pressure roll, and the regulating wheel, and is ground by the grinding wheel. Okay, so this was all about grinding process. Okay, And as I told you, in case you have any doubt, you can definitely let me know. Okay. And again, we can discuss about those topics, okay, by this process, right? If you have any doubt regarding this topic, you can ask me, and I'll request you to go through the uh, uh, unit test which has already been uploaded. Okay, we have time till 5, and we can appear the test, online test through IMCRP. Okay. Yes, anything you want to ask regarding this topic? Any doubt or
No, sir, clear.
everything? Okay, so what I'll do is I'll share the PPT, or I have already shared this PPT. I'll share the few study material, okay, in the WhatsApp group. So please go through them, and in case you have any difficulty in understanding any of the topics, to get in touch with me, right?
স্যার আর একটা কোশ্চেন ছিল স্যার, মিড টার্মে কি মানে মানে আমাদের লিখে আপলোড করতে হবে এরকম কিছু শুনছি আমি,
হ্যাঁ।
না এমসিকিউ আসবে কিছু?